Hi team, welcome to brand new season of Quality Center training, and this is Shan here, and I will be the trainer for Quality Center. So in this session what we are going to see is that we are going to do HP Quality Center 11.5 walkthrough. And first things first, I'll just walk you through the agenda of today's session. Today is a free demo session, this is a fast track session. I hope you all know that the prerequisite of this particular training is day 1 to 3 of the already recorded Quality Center sessions. So this is going to be a fast track session. So you need to cope up with this particular agenda. So please go through the video of day 1, 2 and 3 of the already recorded videos that is put up on our portal. So this is going to be the base for our sessions. Alright team, today's agenda is a brief introduction. I'm going to do a quick introduction on Quality Center, and we will also talk about the domains and the projects. And most important thing is the understanding of the Quality Center workflow. Then we will start getting into the Quality Center by taking a sample project. And then we will start creating the releases, cycles and milestones and scope. And finally, we will also deal with different kinds of requirements. All right, fine. A very quick introduction, a very brief introduction on Quality Center. All right. So why we need a Quality Center, why we need a project management tool is that there are different people who work on a project. There are developers, there are business analysts, there are testers, there are designers, and also architects. And so there are program managers or product owners. So there are so many people who work for a particular project, right? So in order for us to actually integrate well with and along with the communication between the stakeholders, we need a platform. So the platform which is going to help us around for this particular project is Quality Center. It is an application lifecycle management tool. It is also known as ALM, application lifecycle management tool, because it is going to help us throughout the life cycle of the software development, be it design, development, coding, testing and maintenance. But Quality Center is mostly known for its quality perspective, means test management tool, but it is slowly evolving into the project management tool also by helping the developers and also the testers in one platform, right? So this is a product of HP. Everyone knows that it's a product of HP, and 11.5 version is what we are going to deal with. Right. Any questions so far, team? Any questions in the topic that we have discussed as of now? Fine. Let's keep going. Right. So for understanding of our project perspective, we will just take this particular website, calculator.net. Right. This calculator.net we will take as our sample project or sample application with which we are going to work on Quality Center. Right. So the first thing about today's thing is that brief introduction on Quality Center, which we have done with. We will just get into the projects and domains, right? Before that, I'll just open up the home page of Quality Center. So this is how a Quality Center tool looks like. The front login screen. It is a browser-based application, works on a client-server model that we will discuss in the architecture session. And there is a login and password given for each team member, with which you will be able to log into the application and see what is there in the repository and what you can do and what you cannot do. That we will do. So for us to start with, you can see here, there is a username and password. That is fine. That is very straightforward. But what is this domain and project? So the domain and project perspective we will understand. Let's say in your particular project or in your organization, there are a lot of teams that work on particular product, be it anything, but the idea is to understand the alignment of the project and domains. Right? So let's say there are a lot of departments or business units that exist in your particular company. Let's say banking is one of the business unit. Then insurance is one of the business unit. Okay. So business is, one sec. Let me draw the diagram so that you will be able to understand it clearly. So banking is one of them, and then there is something called insurance domain. So these are all domains. There are various business units or domains, you can call it as. And then you also have got let's say retail domain or manufacturing domain. So in your organization, there are a lot of domains that exist, and everyone want to have their project repository created under their domain. It is a structure in which you maintain and manage your projects. So these are all domains, and each domain can have any number of projects. Let's say a project A, project B, project C. So it can have any number of projects. This is just to have our kind of backtracking or a kind of flexible maintenance perspective. So if there are just projects lying around, you will not be able to do any kind of maintenance or customization. So here, if I want to do customization for all my banking projects, that I can do. So this particular tool, based on the domain, we will be able to create projects. Let's say project A, project B, project C, and so on and so forth. This is just for maintenance perspective, and each domain can be managed as an individual entity. So for this one, for managing this particular domain, there can be a domain administrator. A domain administrator can control all the projects under that domain only. You can customize the projects based on the domain also. So each one of them will have a different set of entities or different set of projects, and each project can have its own customization. All right. Fine. So now let's say that we have got one domain under which there are several projects. We have created, let's say, let me log in as an admin. You can see finance is a domain and demo calc is the project. I also have got a calculator project. This is just for us to understand the domain and project perspective. So let me click on login and welcome to the world of Quality Center. So this is how a Quality Center home page looks like. So first glimpse of this particular UI. There are 5 tabs which we are going to deal in each one of those sessions. The dashboard, under which you have got analysis and dashboard view. Don't get scared with the terminologies. We will deal each one of these in detail in the upcoming sessions. And there are releases management, there are releases libraries. You have also got a requirements tab and testing tab, under which you have got resources, plan, lab, and runs. And also you have got the most important tab for all testers, that is defects. Apart from that, you have got back and forward. It's similar to a browser. You click on black, what happens? If you click on forward, what happens is the functionality remains the same. And the tools under which you can do your customization and you can clear your history, so on and so forth. We will touch base on these tools, each one of these menus in detail, and there is also a help menu and logout button. All right. So this is the quick glimpse of 11.5. 11.5 looks almost similar to 11 because of the default settings. Once we turn on the very specific features, you will be really able to appreciate the difference between 11 and 11.5. As of now, it might look very similar, but there are a lot of differences. There are a lot of enhancements that went in. Those individual details we will deal in the upcoming sessions. Right. So before we move on, let me just understand if you have got any questions with the topics that we have discussed so far. All right, I have got one other question from one of the audience. Is ALM another name for Quality Center? See, Quality Center is the tool name it all started with. When HP has taken over the product from Mercury, now it was Quality Center, and Quality Center 9.2 was the first version of 9 and 9.2 was the first version of HP, and then they slowly moved into not just restricting themselves to testing but also for development. Okay, so the development purposes they have also moved so that there is a single platform. That is the reason why they call it as ALM, Application Lifecycle Management. They want to support all the stages of a life cycle, be it design, coding, development, testing and maintenance. They just want to bring it to that particular mode, not just only for testers. I hope I have answered your question. All right, team, let's continue with the session. I have not got any other questions. Fine. The very first thing that we need to do is that creating the releases. Okay. Before that, let's understand the workflow of Quality Center. Okay. Workflow is very, very simple. So if you, there are a lot of people who are just undergoing training in most, and also people who might have understood these concepts, in the sense testing basics concepts. Now I will let you know what is a workflow in Quality Center. So workflow, first it starts with creating releases and cycles. Creating releases is the very first step. Let's say this release is 2014 release. All right, 2014 R4 release. Let's say 2014 R4. R4 stands for release 4 of 2014. Okay, so releases. Under each releases there can be cycles. I think every one of you might be aware of the software development models. Let's say each release usually contains various cycle. Okay, cycle 1, let's say cycle 1, cycle 2 and cycle 3. All right, so we have got various cycles under this release. So under cycle 1 we will just execute few modules. We will develop few modules in cycle 1, then we will develop few modules in cycle 2, and we will do some other activity in cycle 3. Finally, end of this cycle, this release would be completed. So each cycle might have few requirements, or it can have any number of requirements for that matter, right? So cycle 1, let's say cycle 1 has got, let's say 4 or 5 requirements. All right, this is requirement 1. Similarly, there are any number of requirements that form the basis of this particular cycle. So under this cycle there are various requirements. Let's say there are 3 requirements as of now, right? So what a tester will do, we will go through a requirement and we will develop our test plan and test cases. So, and for each requirement there would be a, or there will be a test case, right? There will be a test case associated with it. So not just one test case, depending upon the complexity of your requirement, there can be any number of test case. So it can be a test, it can have any number of test case based on the requirements. Let me say as of now there are 3 test cases for requirement 1. The same thing holds good for requirement 2, requirement 3, and so on and so forth. It's not just for requirement 1, but for each requirement as a tester we will start writing our cases. Right. So after that what we do, we have returned the cases. After that we will execute the cases. Once you execute the case, what happens? There is a defect. Alright, there is a defect. There may be a defect or there may not be a defect, but let's say there is a defect in one of these particular requirement. So for this particular test case there is a defect. So now what we will do is that, so we will map this defect to the test case. So it should be other way around, the arrow. Once you map your defect to a test case, we will have the complete traceability. For this defect there is a test case, for this test case which requirement. So under this requirement how many test cases have failed, we will be able to track that. So for this cycle how many requirements have failed. So on a requirement level we will be able to track on a cycle level, and then if you get into releases we will be able to see there are 3 releases, there are 20 requirements, there are 100 test cases written, out of which we have got 40 defects. So with this you will be having a complete traceability right from the defects to the requirements. Right? I hope this is very clear. For us to start we need to have our releases and cycles first. That is the bottom line. And then we will have our requirements created. Requirements will be maintained as a repository, and then we will also have the test cases written, uploaded, or you can write it manually. And then when you execute the test case, if you find a defect, you map the defect to the test case so that you will have a complete traceability. Alright team, so I think I have just explained you the holistic approach or very high level usage of Quality Center. Any questions on this front? This is going to be the key for our rest of the sessions. You need to understand how we are going to connect the dots. We might just do releases and cycles today. So tomorrow we might do a requirements. Tomorrow, day after tomorrow, we might do a test case writing or uploading or whatever it is. So, and then we will finally end up with creating a defects. Finally, we will link all these dots. So finally, I will connect all these dots so that you get a complete picture. Great. So I have got few questions here from the audience. Right. So I have got one of the questions on installation. So installation is going to be part of tomorrow's session. So I will not be able to talk about installation at this point of time. And then I also got cycles and passes same. Are cycles and passes same? So I didn't get your question clearly. Please post your question clearly, please. Once more, rephrase your question. I've also got one other question. Releases are in another words mini projects. Releases are in another words mini projects. Sorry, team, please post your question in detail so that I will be able to take it up. There is one more question from one of the audience. What is UFT and what is framework? Also, what is the link between ALM and UFT framework? Okay, on a very high level, I will tell you. So, when HP released this 11, QTP 11, that is QTP is known as Unified Functional Testing. It's no longer QTP. It is Sprinter, a manual testing execution. There is a tool. Along with that, they have also enhanced this functional tester, HP functional tester. They integrated into one to give us UFT, Unified Functional Tester 11.0. And then it is all, that's why it's known as Unified Functional Tester, sorry, 11.5. The same thing when they release it for Quality Center, they want to name it as instead of ALM, ALM or Quality Center 11.5. Okay, this ALM is, so the question whatever you have got is related not to Quality Center or ALM, it is related to QTP or Unified Functional Tester, which is a functional automation tool. Alright, so that will be dealt in functional automation tool in detail, but this one is completely focusing on Quality Center, the product management perspective or the quality management tool perspective, which is known as ALM, Application Lifecycle Management Tool. So application ALM, difference between ALM and UFT is ALM is Application Lifecycle Management Tool, UFT is Unified Functional Tester, which is the automation testing tool. So whatever the tests that you write in your ALM or you develop your scripts using QTP, you can derive from Quality Center. Quality Center will help you to execute your QTP scripts, which is also known as UFT. Alright, fine. So it might be a vague for people who have not got the background of QTP or UFT. So please ignore that. It's little out of the context. Still I want to answer it. Are we release cycles level? So we will release the product based on the release level, not on cycle level. Cycle is just a demarcation or a kind of a division with which you will be able to create your or develop your software. In the sense, if I have got 25 requirements, can I create all 25 in one go? No, there can be only 3 or 4 developers working on it. So we will do a kind of the critical ones first, then medium or less critical ones, followed by UAT or also any other things that you want to do. So we will do it in phases or cycle by cycle, with which you will be able to have a clear demarcation between your releases and cycles here. So cycle is just we can call it as a good unit of work. It's a collection of unit of work put under particular umbrella known as cycle. Okay, so that you finish off one cycle, there are few requirements which would be closed during that process. Right. So each releases will have multiple passes which will contain certain requirements and then subsequent. Okay, great. So we have got the question answered here. Fine. So each release will have multiple requirements. So we don't want to release all those things one shot. We will not be able to do it. So that is the same thing that has been posted by one of the audiences. It's fine. Right. Now let's get started. So when do you write a test plan? Test plan writing would be based on test plans would be based on a release level, not on the cycle level. Also you will do it, but your plan will be usually done on a cycle level. If they say that for us this release we have just got 3 months to do the release, then you will come up with your plan, and for each release you will have cycles, and for each cycle you will have your own plans as well. So but on a very high level, plans would be made for releases. Alright team, let's now get into Quality Center and then start creating the releases and cycles. Right. Now let me create a folder for 2014. Let's say, let me call this as a release folder, release 2014. Under this particular folder, I will have one release. Let's say 2014 R4. It's just a notation that I'm going to follow. What I'm going to do is that I will say that this release falls from falls between October to December. So we have got 3 months for this particular project to be released to clients. Let's say this is 2014 release requirements. 2014 release, something like that. So it's just a comment. So you have really created this particular release. Under release, what we have just now discussed, we have got cycles. Now we need to create cycles. So first cycle would be, let's say cycle 1. And first cycle, let's say that it is from 1st of November to 1st of October to 31st of October, right? The same thing that you can create it by duplicate cycle. If you want to create number of cycles, see, I'm just creating a duplicate copy of the same cycle so that we can edit it. Now what I will do, I will just click on rename. I'll say this as cycle 2 and then I will reschedule it. So rescheduling this will, let's say cycle 2 starts from November 1st to November 30th, and then cycle 3, I will rename this to cycle 3, and cycle 3 I will also reschedule it to December. So the reason why I am rescheduling it is I have copied the same cycles over again and again. That is the reason why I am rescheduling it, right? And then I will click on refresh, right? So we are done with this particular half, creating releases, creating cycles, right? So for this release, moment you create a release, you can see there are various tabs associated with it, right? There is a release scope, there is a master plan, there is a scorecard, status, attachments, etc. Right. Now let us say we need to define the scope of this release, right? Scope of this release. Let's say that calculator.net, we need to mention the scope of this release. Let's say, what is the scope? Create these calculators, right? So let me say first scope is to create financial calculators. Create financial calculators is a scope. So scope is a very high level or the very critical ones which you can call it as a scope, and then you can assign it to one of the owners. I will just show you how to create the admins and all later, but we will just talk about the critical ones. That is, we will create financial calculators, right? So I will have few more few more scope. So next would be weight loss calculator. Create so let me say create weight loss calculator. Let's say it's a medium priority one, it's not of a high priority, so let's mark it as medium, and then let's give a owner. Owner can be anyone, it's just person whom you want to assign. Both of them are non-mandatory fields. Usually mandatory fields are marked as with the star mark, like this one. You can see here the red colored star marked ones usually we call it as a mandatory fields. So mandatory fields are usually marked like this. So you no need to get confused with the mandatory and non-mandatory fields, right? So you have got a scope as well. So I will create a couple of more scopes. So let's say other financial calculators. So you have got, let's say I will call that as a medium priority one or low priority one. Click OK. Fine. You have got release scope. So under this particular release, you have got various cycles. So under these cycles, you will create the requirements. Before that, we have also finalized the scope. There are few scope which we have aligned parallel to calculator.net, right? So any questions? Okay, suggestion from one of the audiences, please move the cursor slowly. Sorry team, I think that's because of the relay, because there is always a delay. So I will ensure that I will move on slowly. Thank you, thanks for pointing it out. So anything else team? Right. Let's continue. So once you create a scope, what we need to do, you can click on scope. If you want to edit it, you can edit it. Fine. We will see the other tabs of this release. So details we are done with, scope we are done with. Let's get into the master plan. Right. When I click on full screen view master plan, you can see the one that we have created. releases, there is a cycle. Under that you can also see the timelines from 1st of October to 31st of October is the cycle 1. From 1st of November to 30th November is cycle 2. You can see the timelines clearly. It is developed as a chart on its own. Right. There is a scorecard tab which we will come and revisit this tab later. The scorecard used to generate the scorecard for us. This is just for our quality perspective. Like if we say that for this release we cannot cross more than 4 or 5 defects, it will show us how the particular plot is. You can actually do a kind of analysis using this scorecard. We will touch base on this particular topic, little bit advanced, but we don't want to do a deep dive into this at this point of time because we have just now started the release. Without the test cases or executing the tests, getting this one developed is kind of redundant at this point of time. So we will not touch this particular thing. You can also see the status. You can see the status, total days in the release, remaining days in the release, and also there is a total test instance for this release. So you can see here number of days remaining, number of days elapsed, and then remaining instances to be run. So it gives a complete picture about this release. So if you have got any test cases to be run or test execution that is pending, you can see here based on cycle 1, cycle 2 and cycle 3, it gives coverage. It gives us a complete progress about our release. It's all empty because we have just now created it. There is nothing inside the cycles, right? And if you want to have any attachment, any kind of plans or any kind of documents to be attached, you can attach usually any type of document, usually Excel or Word document, you can attach it on your own. Okay, fine. So this is all about the releases tab. We have created the releases and cycles. Now we will create something called milestone. All right. When you're doing a release, we will have each milestone. Let's say developing UI is one milestone, and that milestone starts from 1st of October, let's say, to let's say November 1st, or let's say October 20th itself you will complete your UI. Let's say this is one milestone, one critical milestone. You can have your milestones. So I will also have, I will also have one more milestone. So developing UI and then developing the functionalities is one other milestone. That milestone, let me put the time limit as 1st November. Before 20th November, all the functionalities, in the sense critical ones, should have been developed. Okay, so you can see the validation message. I have selected November here and then October here. It immediately throws the warning message that milestone due date cannot be earlier than the milestone starting date. So I'll just say that by 20th of November I will have all the functionalities developed. Click on OK. I will have one more milestone. Let me say this is a milestone for UAT. During this point of time, we will have a UAT performed or UAT done and dusted by 8th of December to, let's say, 18th of December. A very tentative timeline I will select, or let's say 20th of December. So you are creating few milestones, and finally the final milestone would be deploying it to production deployment or staging. Okay, now I will just put that as the last milestone of our release. Let's say it starts from 25th to 31st. So your cycles and milestones goes hand in hand. You can see here for each milestone you can define map the scope. Okay, the scope we have created on a release level. Whatever the things that we have done on a release level, we can map it to the milestone. So how you can map it to the milestone? You can select it immediately, this tree grid view opens. These are all the ones that we have created as a scope, if you remember. So these things you can map it to the scope, right? So one of the questions from the audience is that, is milestone similar to cycle? No. Milestone is a point of time wherein you have achieved something significantly. Cycle, okay, there are a lot of things that is popping up. One is give the difference between the cycle and then milestone dates. All right. Team, you are developing, let's say these things holds good for complex applications. Okay, you are developing a complex application and then you have got your releases fixed. By the end of this release, these are all the requirements that you will do. Let's say the milestone is something independent of the cycle. Okay, that you can probably the timelines that I have mentioned is what you have confused you, but your milestones can be independent of the cycle. Milestone can be like developing the web service layer or bringing up the UI. So these are all very generic things, right? Bringing up, completing the UAT or completing the deployment on production. These cannot be the requirement, or this cannot be a cycle. This cannot be fit into a cycle. So these can be called as a milestone. So each milestone you complete, it means that you are making a significant progress. It also holds good for cycle. I don't deny that. The main difference here between a cycle and a milestone, it is milestones are independent of cycles. Okay, milestones are independent of cycles. So under the cycle, you can have a clear requirement definition that is made. Whereas milestone is a point at which you are supposed to achieve that. Let's say during this time I will achieve. Usually milestones are not given brief period of time. I think the dates we will if you want to reevaluate or reschedule the dates, you can do that. I think the dates is what you confused you. Let's say that I will reschedule the milestone date. The first developing UI should be done, let's say by 20th of October to, let's say, 22nd. So between this time frame, you should have met this particular milestone. Okay, it's like a goal setting. Exactly. So from one of the audience, he has mentioned that it is a goal setting. Yes, it is similar to that. Yeah, you set a goal and you achieve it. But cycle is for a brief period of time. It's for a detailed period of time. It's not for short duration. You can see it's usually a month or a month and a half based on your complexity of that release. All right. So you can map your milestones to a scope. Okay. First, developing UI. Developing UI we should complete it by creating the, let's say, when you complete your financial calculators, this UA should be up and running. Developing UA should be completed. Then developing the functionalities. Okay, financial weight loss. I want all these three should go as part of this particular milestone scope. UAT. Again, for UAT, I will do all these three are part of UAT. Prod deployment, we will have, if you have some other scope, you can add it, or else you can add any number of items to your scope. Okay, fine. So we have created the release, we have created the cycles, and also we have created the milestones. All right, fine team. Any questions so far? So milestone is for our convenience, not for our convenience, but it's a kind of a logical achievement, I would say. It is the point of time where you have achieved something significantly great, and that we call it as a milestone. We can define your own milestones. That depends on the project complexity, and usually project managers, they define the milestone. Okay, this is the milestone. We should reach it. Right? It's a target. Right. Now let's get into the requirements tab. So as per today's agenda, what we are supposed to do is that we are done with these domains and projects. We have also done with the quality center workflow. We have also done with releases, cycles, milestone, and scope. Everything is done and dusted. From now on, everything related to the activities in Quality Center will be closely, or it will be closely tied to these parameters only. Whatever I do, if I create a test case, if I create a requirement, so this requirement is for which release, for which cycle, right? If I create a test case is for which cycle or which release you are pointing to. And if I post a defect also, for what release you are posting a defect, you need to mention it. So the things that you do from now on is closely coupled to your releases and cycles, especially these two parameters, releases and cycles. All right, fine. Now let's get into requirements tab. All right, now comes the requirements tab. See, here you have done these releases and cycles. Now how we connect our items or the requirements to the releases is our question. So once you start creating the requirement, then you will really appreciate it. Let me create a folder. Let's say I will create a folder for functional requirement, and also I will create a folder for non-functional requirement separately. Okay, all right. Immediately you can see there is a lock symbol, unlocked symbol. This is part of version controlling, which I will deal in detail in tomorrow's session. What is version controlling, why we need to do that, what is that versioning all about, I will just let you know in detail. As of now, you just need to understand that when you create a document or post a requirement or a test case, you need to check it in. Check in is a process that we will deal in detail in tomorrow's session. Right, let me create a new requirement. Okay, under functional, let's say that mortgage calculator is one requirement. Mortgage calculator. Now you will also define what requirement type it is. Is it a functional requirement or a business requirement or a testing or a performance? You can name it, and then you can create your own requirement. Even testers, you can go and create your testing requirement. As a tester, you want to do so and so things. Right, creation date, direct cover, you can see all these things. You can leave it because it's all non-mandatory fields, but I will just ensure that I will map it to one of the cycle. Okay, in cycle 1 requirement is this mortgage calculator. Mortgage calculator falls under cycle 1. The moment you fill in cycle, the releases is automatically populated. The reason is, if you select a cycle, automatically the cycle is attached to a release. That is the reason why you can see here, moment you choose the cycle, the release is auto-populated. You click on submit, that's it. You can see here the requirement has been posted successfully here, and the new requirement window keeps opening for you until you close it. If I want to create one more requirement, I can go ahead and do it. Loan calculator. Let's say I want to create a loan calculator. Again, let me call this as a functional requirement, and then this, let me post this as part of cycle 1 requirement. Submit. Right, so you can see here loan calculator is posted again, and then I will also create one more. Let's say volume calculator, or let's say payment calculator. Okay, payment calculator. So I'm just taking this calculator.net as the reference so that we understand it. We have a sample application so that we can understand how the flow is. It's all just for understanding purpose. Nothing, there is no correlation between calculator.net and Quality Center. We have just taken calculator.net as a sample application so that you will be able to understand the bottom line of our Quality Center tool. Okay, so moment you create it, you can see the lock symbol. Fine, I'll just post this requirement, check it in. Let me give the comment as the first question and then check it in. right. So I'll do the same thing for the other two as well. I need to do the check-in. So this particular piece of information like checking in, we will deal in detail tomorrow. That is the first half of tomorrow's session. All right. So we are done with the creating requirements. So only we have created, you can see here, moment you create a requirement, the one which we are seeing at this point of time is a tree grid view, right? Tree grid view. You can also change the view with the details view. So here, see here, immediately the grid view changes. You can see here, mortgage calculator, there is a text or attachment. If you have the defects, traceability, coverage, risk assessment, history, will show you the changes made on this particular requirement. So the details tab will have the details that we have entered while creating the requirement. Alright, the details about the requirement, that is more important, isn't it? The details about the requirement. If we want to have details about the requirement, what you need to do, you can put either under description or you can post as an attachment. If you are a business owner or if you are the product owner and if you want to specify the requirements, this is not the requirement, right? Like whatever I have created is for understanding purpose. Requirement can be a document. So where you will have your document, either you can have it in the attached document section, or if you have just the rich text, you can just start typing on your own. All right. So this is just for understanding purposes. All right, team. So any questions on this front so far? I will just walk you through the tabs, various tabs in the requirement before we move on. Before that, check-in, I didn't get it. I think most of the questions are related to check-in. Check-in, I will do it in detail in tomorrow's session. That's what tomorrow's first half is all about. What is check-in, how to do that, and all. Who will add the requirements in the application? So it's business owners or product owners. They create the requirements and post the requirements here, and then the developers pick it up and they start developing the test cases. Right. Now we will talk about the various tabs related to the requirements. Fine. If you get into the folder level, we have created two folders on the requirement tab. That is the functional and non-functional. So if you click on functional, you can see here the details. Whatever the details that you have created is the default details. There is nothing because I just created the folder. There is a rich text area where you can give an overview of what this folder is all about. If you have got a logical grouping, let's say the financial calculators under which you have got various other calculators. So you can just give a brief overview. This financial calculator, if you are creating a folder for financial calculator, you can just give a brief overview. Then attachments, if you want to attach any documents or link it. You can also see the linked defects, right? So on a folder level, you can also push the defects or map the defects to the requirement. So understand the cycle, this particular workflow. You create the cycle requirements, then you have to have mapping to the test case and also to the defects, right? So on a requirement level, you can have your test, you can also have your defects. Okay, this is on a folder level requirement. If you want to get into a functional requirement also, these things would be available. See here, I just got into mortgage calculator. You can see the linked defects tab, the defects associated with this particular requirement, and also test coverage. These things are right now empty because we have not created any test cases so far. We have not created test cases or we have not executed the test cases. Neither we have created defects or posted any defects. That is the reason why you are able to see everything as empty here. So we have connected the dots right away here. From the requirement, you will have the mapping of both test case and defects. So we can very well tell that whether the requirement is a pass or fail, whether the requirement has been tested or not. So with this, we will be able to do the mapping of both tests as well as defects. You can see here requirement traceability. If you want to trace, let's say if it has connection to other requirements, you can add the parameters, how to trace whether the test case having more test cases or the particular requirement is linked to another requirement. You can mention your traceability, how you want to trace this. Okay, and then the business models linkage, you can leave this history in which you can see what has been done for this particular requirement. See here, I'm the one who has created this auto-generated first version to first version, then there is nothing. So how many number of times you open or check out and edit it, you can find all your history here. Okay, history will tell you what has been changed, who has modified it, what date and time. So what is the current version all about, and then the date and modified time is also there. Fine. So this is the brief introduction about requirements, right? So you might be wondering, if I have got 100 requirements, will I be able to create 100 requirements like this? No. I can also post these requirements from Excel. Okay, using Excel, how to use the plugin, how to push for all the things from Excel to here, we will deal in the upcoming sessions. Just that we have created few dummy requirements so that you understand this connectivity, this particular workflow. Fine. I have also got one of the questions from the audience. Can we have the requirement level defects as part of linked defects? Requirement level defects as part of linked defects. Yes. So for that only you can link it to your defect. That is the usage. Exactly. You are right. So you can have your defects linked to this particular requirement. Whatever the requirement defects it has got, you can link it to the defect. See here, either you can link to an existing defect or you can add and link to a new defect. If you add and link to a new defect window opens. Whereas if you click on link existing window, you can give the defect ID and that would be linked automatically. Fine. Great team. Fine. We have come to the end of today's session. Before I wrap up, I usually complete the session with a tip for the day. So tip for the day is default user privileges. We will understand what this default user privilege is all about. Whenever you create a user, as an administrator, you create a user, that particular user will just have view permissions. Membership is view. Let me show you what is that all about. You can see the screenshot. This particular, any user who has been created newly will just have view requirement, view user. Right, let me get into this particular area. You can get into customize, wherein you can customize your project, users and whatnot. Go to user properties, project users. You choose any one of them who has been created newly. Terry is a new user. By default, view is what given to that particular user. View in the sense that you will not be able to edit, you will not be able to delete, you will not be able to add. You cannot make any modifications. All that you can do is that you can view what is going on. It's just view. Other membership levels are admin level, tester level, project manager level and developer level. Each one of them has got its own set of rights or the things that you can do and you cannot do. That we will deal in detail. So each one has got a privilege. See, a tester can create a test case, execute a test case, post a defect. Project manager can have access to releases cycles. So developer again will have access to requirements and defects. So each one has a specific role to play. That is the reason why it is by whatever the user that you create, by default only view membership is added. but as a quality center admin, you can map to any one of the membership level, and then you can save it and close it. So this is the tip for the day. Any user you create will just have view permission. This is for a administrative level information. Still, I want to share one useful information per day. Alright team, so this is what I have for today's session. I hope you had an exciting session. So tomorrow it is going to be for the premium members. So please do join us as premium members. It's only for paid participants. So the instructions will reach you pretty soon. Join us, and then you will have the access to these videos, as well as you will also have the access to the class files, the files that we generate or the files that I use as part of these demo sessions. Alright, it is going to be a exhaustive, both advanced and basic sessions. We will also talk about the site administration level, which is going to have an upper hand on you if you have got those particular features exposure. Because when in an organization, if you move into, and if you just tell them that you are a quality center administrator, or if you know what quality center admin all about, it is an added advantage. All right. So this particular session or this course is going to be for this entire week, from Monday to Friday. So usually it is 1 hour for the normal track. Because it's fast track, it is going to be 1.5 hour session each for the next 5 days. Alright team, that's all I have for today's session. So whatever the things that you have missed, the video would be uploaded. You can go and watch the videos in our portal. And have a great day team, and do join us tomorrow, and do join us for the upcoming sessions as premium members. Happy to have you on board. Thanks a lot for joining us. Have a great day. Thank you.